Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. It's John, the Net Guy. We are ready to go. This is our first official live stream on the channel. This is John, the Net Guy. As I mentioned, you probably know me from YouTube. We're simulcasting right now on YouTube, Facebook, and RogueCast.com. I'm also a RogueCast content creator. And they asked me to check out hardware from now and then, and this Ponos MS4 case that they sent me is awesome. I love this case. There's lots of really cool things about it. So let's start back up a little bit. Who is RogueCast? Let's talk about that. RogueCast is a new way of buying computer components. Right now you can go to Amazon, Newegg, Walmart, and you can buy gaming parts. But realistically, you don't know what you're buying, and you don't know if it's going to work together well. So this has been just a fantastic opportunity to buy from gamers who use these products, love these products, and we will tell you if something is good. You're going to get opportunity to see live streams and special events like we're doing now. A lot of the products I've looked at today here, and I'm going to include in this build, I've actually reviewed, and you can see my reviews on RogueCast.com. And, if we get a product occasionally that doesn't pass muster, we're going to throw it out. So you're going to see other creators like, Jeff from Craft Computing there, Iggy, Sheen, and others are going to tell you what they think about the products. And like I said, I'm really excited to build this. Who am I? Well, as I said, I'm John, the Net Guy. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. And I create PCs. I do PC builds, gaming tech reviews, and I just say it's, for everybody that wants to do this. I have no minimum skill level. You can learn how to do this. With what we're going to do today, you'll be able to build this yourself. No questions asked, no problem at all. And a lot of the parts here that we're going to use in today's build come from RogueCast.com. So I don't think there's anything here that you can't buy from RogueCast. Graphics cards are a little hard to come by, I'll be honest right now, but we'll talk about that more as we get to building. So really exciting. Let's talk about what the Raijintek Ponos MS4 actually is. Let's go to the specs. This is a really cool looking case. As you can see here, I hesitate to call it a full tower because it's not incredibly tall, like some of the full tower cases, but you can fit a server level motherboard in here. You can fit one of those EEB boards in there, and a full size ATX board, 7 slots, that's going to fit in here really well. Also, what's amazing about this deal is it comes with 4 addressable RGB fans. There's 3 in the front, 120 millimeter, and 1 in the rear, an exhaust fan. I don't know of any other manufacturer right now that I've used recently that includes all of this ARGB fans and a controller on the back of the case. I'll show you here. There's a 6-port controller, so if you want to add a couple more fans, or you've got a radiator cooler in mind, you can plug those right into the controller and they'll all be automatically synced. So whether or not your motherboard supports addressable RGB, this is a really cool thing. You can actually use this directly through their controller, or you can plug that controller into your motherboard's port and it will sync up with your Aura Sync, your Mystic Light, your RGB Fusion, almost anything it'll work with. And so very, very capable case. It's got a 280 millimeter top maximum AIO cooler size and 360 in the front. Now what's cool about that, if you pulled those 3 front fans out and you're going to put a 360 in there, or you're going to do a push-pull configuration, those extra fans you could actually relocate to other areas where you want case and airflow. So really kind of a cool opportunity there. Coming back to me over here, this is kind of funny. We're going to use a RX. I'm going to switch over to the side cam here for you. We're going to use an RX 580. Graphics cards are really hard to come by right now. This is one of the biggest cards I had at the time, which is 10 inches long end to end. And it's actually about 2 inches shorter than the 6800 that I just got. So 6800 is a 12-inch card. These cards keep getting bigger and bigger, more fans, more heat sinks. And this case, let's go back to those specs here, can take up to a 390 millimeter graphics card. Now, I'll be honest, I had to use that personal digital assistant to do the math for me. That's over a 15-inch graphics card. So you can get an enormous graphics card in here in the case. And the side of the case features a tempered glass side. I'm going to show you that over here on the B cam. So you got 4 millimeter tempered glass on here. And one thing I like about it is it's not like super dark. This case right now is off. There's no light, no power to it. Way back in here, you can actually already see the fan through it. So that was really special to me about this case, is I've seen some, tempered glass sides that are so smoke colored but you can't actually see the RGB that you're putting your money into. So it's, you know, just too dark in that. Let's talk about the different models that we have. So this is the MS4. We carry 4 different models here on RogueCast. There's the TG4, which means tempered glass on the front, the MS4, which is mesh, the TG, and the MS. Now, the cool thing about those is if you're not into RGB and you've already got a fan solution, you're going to do AIOs all around, or you're going to do something else, you want something that's dead silent, you can buy one of these TGs. You get all the things that I'm going to show you here, minus the controller, minus the fans. But speaking about that, I was doing some pre-research here, and I'm like, okay, what does 420 millimeter fans and a controller go for? It's $40 every day on Amazon for that. So really interesting thing. You know, you're basically spending $71 on a case, and you're going to get $40 worth of fans and addressable RGB controller. I'm going to make that even better, actually. They told me I could do this, so I'm going to pull this special code up. I've been hinting about it on a couple posts. For people that are watching this live stream, if you want to pick up this case from RogueCast.com, they've authorized me to give out this code. The first 50 people that buy are going to get this. So I don't know if I'd wait till all the way to the end. Definitely not next week, because it's going to be gone by then. But that 71 price is going to drop down even below the price with the not having the fans. You're going to get $51 with free ground shipping for this case. Great deal. The promo code is a little bit long. RogueCast Raijintek, RAIJINTEK. You put that in there and check out, it's going to give you $20 off of the case. And so, you know, very excited to hear that. That's a no-brainer to me. $51, that goes in the case pile that I have. You know, it's going to be another case for a special project. Today, I'm going to build this. It's kind of a surprise for my kids. I'm going to build it for my girls. They wanted a gaming machine, so figured an RX 580 should run Roblox pretty good, maybe into the triple digits. So let's talk about the components. Like I said here, I'm going to pull up a build guide real quick. You're going to see the different things that we've got. I've got an AMD 3600X. So that's a 6-core, 12-thread processor. I've got this motherboard here. It's the ASRock B550M Pro 4. Now, just coming back to me for a sec, I did a review on that board. It is totally cool for the money. If you're looking at eyes on maybe a 5000 series AMD when they finally come back to earth, and you can get one, this supports that. If you've got a 3000 series like this CPU that I had, it supports that. Now, lower CPU specs, they don't generally, you can do some maybe with some BIOS updates, but it's not officially supported. And some of the new APUs that they haven't really come out with yet are not officially supported yet, but it has some pretty good connectivity on the back, really good audio engines, lots of really cool things. It's actually right here. I'll just pull it up for you guys so you can see it. Like I said, I did a full review of this on the site, and I've kind of packed it up already a little bit for you. I don't like having extra cables and drives. This case handles them beautifully, though. I'll show you that. So I just put an NVMe solid state drive in right here. This is that crucial 1 terabyte. I'm going to use the stock cooler because, even though there's plenty of other cooler options, I'm going to use the stock cooler that comes with the AMD. It works good. It's not great. It works good for doing this. It keeps it cool enough. But I'm going to try to build this, again, not necessarily a low budget build, but it's going to be a build that you could do at home, not advanced wiring or anything. So that is the cooler. I've put the cooler and the CPU in just for the sake of testing, make sure we weren't going to have any craziness. Also, I'm going to bring this over a little bit so you can see the memory. I actually show you how to install and remove memory on here. This is the Crucial Ballistics gaming memory. So this is RGB RAM. It is 3200 megahertz RAM. It's really easy to put in and out. Now this board specifically only opens on one side, so that's a little bit of a difference here. I'm going to use slot 2 and 4, or I guess 1 and 3 depending on how you count, and I'm going to lock that in. Some people don't put the RAM in while they have the board out. I do. I find it's a lot harder to get, RAM and stuff in when you've got these tighter cases. With this case being so big, I don't think you'd have a problem either way. But a really cool board, lots of SATA interfaces, really good, just a platform to work from. That's the one thing I like about boards, is just to make sure that you have what you need going forward. This thing will handle those advanced CPUs. It's also got 4 case fan headers. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit as we get into this build. We'll talk about the case headers. Lots of I/O options in here as well. Armored PCIe slot, which is really useful actually. So you get these really heavy, that RX 6800 It's a 2.5 pound graphics card. You put that thing in a normal slot, it's like, it's heavier than the board, right? And so, you know, that graphics card is going to need some support. So that's a really cool, nice slot protection. You're going to see that on a lot. And really good heat sinks and VRMs on here. You want that, obviously. So enough about that. We talked about the memory. We talked about the CPU. This thing is just a rocket. If you're backing up your Blu-ray collection, that 12-thread processor, I can guarantee you, goes very fast in encoding. The B550M motherboard, another great product. And then just lastly, I'm going to touch on it real quick here. This is the 600 BQ. It's heavy. That's a lot of heat sinks in there. This is the power supply I'm going to use on this build. Now, we actually have the 700 BQ listed on the site. This is one I had available to me. I didn't want to ship a 700 just for a demo here. This is going to be more than enough for their gaming machine. So this is the 600 BQ. A couple things I'm going to point out that I really like about these is it's a semi-modular power supply. Now, I'm going to pull this out and take some of the things out that we're going to need. And I'll set those off to the side as we go here. Let's try this view and see. There we go. So this is what you're going to get in the box. You obviously get the manual. As you can see, 500, 600, 700, they're all really the same concept. You get these modular cables. So what's cool about that is you're not actually going to have to have a bunch of cables. You don't have, as my friend Dan always calls them, he calls them the ketchup and mustard cables. You don't get those ugly colors. They're nice and flat, so they route really well. But if you don't have SATA drives, throw it out. Don't use it. Don't put it in your build. Keep your case nice and clean. You don't have those sitting around. Now, we do have one SATA connector we're going to use, but Molex, this thing retired a heck of a long time ago, I hope. So Molex connector, floppy drive, all that, gone. You don't need that. So we won't use those. We're going to use a couple more of these, though. Definitely, you need some 8 pins. So this has both 2 8 pins, and they're split 6 and 8 pin connectors. So if you got dual 6s that you need, you just take off that 2 pin, and you go from there. So we're going to keep that because we're going to have a graphics card in here. I've already got a bench power cable, so I'm not going to use that. Now, I said semi-modular, and what that means is that the ATX power and the additional 4-pin CPU headers, those are already stuck on there. You're not going to get rid of those. That's actually a good thing, but they wrap them nicely here, so you can see they've got this nice mesh wrapping on the power supply. Again, another great product available from RogueCast. And then here is where you would plug in those power supply modules. So you can see peripherals, I think that is SATA 1, SATA 2, and your VGA. So you're going to use this no matter what. Some, Intel builds, you could have a CPU or an APU in an AMD world. So you wouldn't need really much of any of these extras. So it cuts down a lot on cabling, less cables to manage. Again, simple on off, no RGB in this thing, but that's not going to be the star of our show on this one. So I'm going to set this thing off to the side. And we're going to start looking at the Raijintek Ponos case here. So I'm going to turn it sideways. You're going to get to see a reflection of all the stuff I got going in my lights. I'm going to open it up. It has these little thumb screws. I've dropped one of them yesterday when I was prepping. Rolled all the way across the floor. But I did find it, so I'm going to try to be careful with these ones and not lose them. It has 4 screws holding the tempered glass on. If you hear a crashing sound while I'm doing this, could be a job opening. I hope I don't break this, but nice tempered glass. Like I was going to say, tempered glass, the difference between that and plate glass is when this breaks, it's going to break into really fine small pieces. So it's a safety thing. If you did drop it or break it, it's going to be like automotive glass. It's going to be safe. I'm setting that to the side because we're going to use that later. I'm going to point out just right away, lots of really cool builder-friendly features in this build. Couple things you'll notice right away. They've got the standoffs in here already, and the standoffs are brass. They're not cheapo standoffs. I've seen in other cases, especially budget cases, they'll have these things will be just pot metal. They're not going to be in great shape. I've actually moved these ones up, but you can see, because this is my micro ATX board, but as a full-size ATX, it can go all the way down here. I think it's 12-ish inches. And then it also has, plenty of room to expand out in this direction. It's got other cool things like these are the connectors for the 2.5-inch drive. If you want to hide a 2.5-inch on the back side, that's a really cool thing. And again, you're doing cable management, there's like an inch back there that you can hide your cables. You're not worried about pinching cables, nothing like that. Again, good airflow. You can see through here. We've got airflow to the back. Lots of really cool stuff, again, with this case. Let's go up top real quick here. So this is an integrated magnetic filter, mesh filter, real common. Again, you're starting to see these a lot more and more on these cases. So that's the mesh filter. We got those addressable RGBs in the front that we talked about, and we've got that fan in the back here. So again, clear fan blades make it look even cooler when it's lit up. And there's that 120 millimeter rear fan. I'm gonna go flip this thing around, and we're gonna take off the back of the case. This is where you access everything for doing your wiring and making really cool cable management. If you guys have any cable management ideas, let me know about them in the comments. I'm going to check the Q&A here in just a second and do a quick pause. And then you guys can ask your questions and give me some tips on cable management here. We might not do too much on cable management just in the interest of time. But like I said, this case is going to make it easy, especially if you're new at this, to get your cables run. So again, that's how it comes from the factory. One thing I wanted to point out here, I'm going to come back to full. So overall, this case is not heavy, and usually light cases mean bad, But one thing I wanted to point out here, and I'm going to come into a closer view here. Every edge on this thing is smoothed and it's rolled. It's got huge structural stability that way. So, it's interesting enough, but from an engineering perspective, a car, if it had just flat sheets, you could dent a car just pushing on it. But curves and edges, those provide structural rigidity. And this case has it. It's actually, I was doing some research on it. It is designed in Germany and then made in China. So it definitely has a German influence in the design here. You'll also notice when I talk about that strength that it's got. So super light. Again, one thing you can do with your cheap cases, go in and just pull on the metal in the middle. If it doesn't have these reinforcing curves and edges, again, everything's nice and smooth rolled. I'm not going to cut myself on it. If it doesn't have that, it's going to flop all around. And when you push your motherboard down to put your graphics card or you do something else, cheaper cases are going to just like be a trampoline. And so this is not, it has, again, lots of little zip tie locations. They were thinking ahead. And you know what? All the parts kit, I'm going to back this up a little bit so you can see. Parts kit comes in here in the 3.5-inch drive tray. It actually has probably a good 10 zip ties included. So it's got just a pile. And it comes with a box, so you're not just getting a bag. You can use the box here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump them all out so we have them available. Yeah, but it's got a good at least half dozen to 10 zip ties that you can help do your cable management with. So I really like that. Another thing I'm going to point out, and I don't have a 2.5-inch drive or even a 3.5-inch drive, but these little rubber bushings and on these threaded screws, what they're for, and it's kind of a cool idea, is you can put them on your drive and then you mount your drive just with a screwless design. So you put the screws, not technically screwless, you put the screw in the drive, you slide it down. This is behind the motherboard. You slide it down, and that's an anti-vibration and a retainer. So it's going to hold your drive in place, keep it from slopping all around there. I'm going to go over and check the YouTube questions. $20 off it is. You got it. Awesome. And it's actually a question came in on the chat. It says, here, I'll come back to me. Is it ITX or MATX? It's actually ATX and EEB, I think is what it is. I've never used an EE board, but you got 12-inch by 12-inch at least room for this. So tons and tons of room on there. I'm going to check the RogueCast chat real quick as well here in a second. So just coming back to this, looking at the cable management, it's really good. They've got a lot of opportunities. They've actually already run the cables for you down the side for the front. This is real common with cases. And I'm going to pull them out here. A couple just simple tips. Organize your IOs together if you can. So there's your USB 3. That's the USB 3 connector. It's going to be USB 2, HD audio. These are all labeled here as well, so real fine print, but they're labeled. Then you're going to see a couple fan headers, and these things are kind of interesting. So the fan's going to have the power headers for the fan. The RGB headers have already been run. So the lighting for your fans will work regardless if they're plugged in or not. These are interesting. So it's a dual Molex and a regular 3-pin case header with RPM feedback. So it's going to actually tell it how it's running. This can be really useful if you're doing a build. I'm kind of a person that doesn't like noise. I do a lot of recording for YouTube, and I can't have a machine that's sitting there doing nothing but just toasting the fans away. So I like this because you can actually plug these in and you can control them through the software. I was playing around with the ASRock software. You can plug the Molexes in together, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to show you a trick here. And then you can plug just one of the headers in. It'll run the power through the Molex connectors. If you don't have that case header support on your motherboard or not a free one, you could plug into a Molex on your power supply and you're going to be just fine. So those are the cables for I/O over here. Those are the remaining ones. We've got a couple things. You got a reset switch right here. Now reset switch, normal, but there's going to be a special thing. What I'm going to show you on here, this is the RGB controller. I wish it would focus. So that's RGB controller. It's got power in and it's got a data if your motherboard supports it. But right here it says key and ground. You can just take the reset switch, and this is in the manual, and you can put it on right there. Now, I could tie this up, but I'm not going to worry about cable management today. What this is going to do is it's going to turn my reset switch now into automatically a LED switch. So I can change my LED lighting display in the final build you're going to see here in a little bit. I can do that by just tapping my reset switch over and over. Nobody uses a reset switch anyway, hopefully these days, don't have to. So that's one of the cool things there. There's the rear fan header up here. So this is the one, they got it routed through the top. They already actually had this wire for the RGB connected over here and ready to go. So I didn't have to hook that up. So this is already routed. I'm going to pull that power supply and we're going to get started because I think we've got enough going on here. It's going to take a little bit to put these together. I'm going to check back in on the channel. We're going to see about the chats that we've got going on and some of the questions. Like I said, this is a 600 BQ. You can decide, there's two ways to put the power supply in here. You can put it fan side facing down. Now what that's going to do, your power cables are going to be here. It's going to draw air in from under the machine and it exhausts it out the back. Another way to do it, and what I'm going to do it here in this case, is it's going to pull air from in the machine if the fan is up, and it's going to exhaust it out the back. By doing this, there is one advantage in this style. So we've got 3 fans blowing in, 1 blowing out. I'm going to add another larger fan here by adding this one blowing out. It's going to set that negative pressure to help pull it through. So I'm going to do that. Before we plug it all the way in, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to try to figure out real quick, like I said, what cables I need. Now I said I'm going to need 1 SATA cable, but I don't have any SATA drives in here, and that is because the power right here, this power cable for the controller uses a SATA interface. So if I want to have my lights, I'm going to need to do that. They're keyed and you can't get that wrong. So I'm going to plug that one in. And like I said, we'll worry about cable management later, but we could probably do a whole episode on that. Hit me up in the comments and let me know if that is a good thing. Link for the product, Amirit, I just saw your message. It's actually RogueCast.com. Type the letters MS4 in the top, or you can be watching, if you're watching on the stream, it should have been linked in the stream. You should be somewhere around on the live stream page. But RogueCast.com, just type in MS4 at the top, you're going to find it. Great case here, 51 bucks, a great deal with that discount code. So I'm going to plug in this right here. It's going to save me just a little bit of time and a little bit of headache. Once I have this bolted in back there, it can be harder to find. Another just kind of, again, cool builder stuff. There's a mesh grate underneath the power supply where it's going to be pulling in. If you're like me, you got pets. I've got a few carpets. The girls' room is carpeted where this is going to go. And the dog does have a kennel down there. So, that hair and dander and everything else is going to get sucked up. It's going to get caught in that mesh, and it's not going to go in my power supply if I have it doing the reverse draw or if air comes in. So you can have that removable mesh on the power supply, really easy to get to from the outside. I'm going to plug this into the VGA as I mentioned over here. I'll get you guys a good shot of how this goes in. This is kind of an interesting dance we get to play now with the power supply. So another interesting thing about this, if you don't plan on putting 3.5-inch drives in ever. I like to use 3.5-inch drives for big games. So if I put a small SSD in, I can put a large traditional hard drive, 3.5-inch, cheap. I get them a lot because I rebuild computers, so I can do that. This, again, builder-friendly feature. It's going to have a removable drive tray right here, and you can put that on the drive and slide it in and it latches. You don't have to be trying to tighten things in. If you really wanted to go there, you could actually just take 4 screws out here on the bottom, and I think maybe the 2 on the top here, right there and there. In that case, this area, the drive cage, comes out completely. So if you've got a monster power supply, you know, there's a lot of airflow here, but if you've got a monster power supply you're going to try to fit in this thing, you can do it. And you can use that extra room here. It can go all the way out. This is a 140 mil power supply. So I'm going to go slide this back a little just to give you guys a view of what I'm doing here. So I just put that in sideways and I just twisted it. And the way that the back of this case is designed, it'll let you put it in either direction. You can have it upside down or not. The holes will line up. There's a different set of holes because power supplies are keyed. But there's a different set of holes you can use. So I'm going to just turn this actually just so you guys get to see what I'm doing here. I don't want to hide anything from you. Okay. So again, I'm actually just putting these screws in. There's 4 screws for the power supply. Now, I don't know if you're like me, I always mess up the coarse thread screws and the fine thread screws. Fine thread generally have been good for smaller drives, I've noticed, you know, but I always mess them up. On this case, obviously, it's a lot of coarse thread, works really well. Okay, power supply is in. If you guys want to bet in the chat, I was debating on, you know, is this thing going to actually post when I run it? You know, what's the odds? What's the over-under on it posting? We'll see. It's always easy when you do it for yourself without an audience. The thing I like to do with power cables, you can run them in here. You can also run them in this extra drive bay. You know, that's in line again with this area right here where I've got my zip ties. So I could run them, but I'm going to run those extra SATA power cables. This is the VGA. Now I know I'm going to have a graphics card. I know it's going to be somewhere around this area when I get the final build. So I'm going to run it through that hole. Then I got my ATX cables. Those are going to be somewhere right around this area. Now I'm running these through. I had a friend ask me the other day, shout out to Nick, by the way. He asked me, he's like, you put your graphics cards in? He goes, you put your graphics cards in standing up? I said, no, only when I'm trying to demo something. Because, you know, a lot of times you just put it on the bench, you know, slam things in there, get it going. But when I'm trying to demo something, you know, I was trying to show how you answer it. It was really hard to get a camera angle on it. So I'm going to run these cables through first now. This is the CPU header cable real quick. Right there, there's your dual 4 pins. I'm going to run that up because I know it goes through here. So that's generally where my stuff's going to go. I'm going to lay this down and we're going to put a motherboard in. And then we're going to come back. Once the motherboard's in, we've got everything, you know, kind of where we want it. I'm going to go ahead and come back to this. And we'll plug in those chassis headers and a few other things, and then we'll get going. So that's essentially the wiring we need there. We'll plug all this I/O stuff in after we get the motherboard in. So we're going to scoot back. Okay, I'm going to try to get you guys the best view that I can here of this. It's not the easiest thing to film and build as we go. So this is the case. I took the liberty of putting this I/O shield in the back just to make it a little bit easier when we go to do this build. And that's just going to make things dial in that much easier. This is the motherboard, like I said. I've got it fully loaded here, so it's got CPU, it's got the RAM. Now you're going to notice one thing when I put it in here, and I'm aligning it to the slots. I'm trying not to pinch any wires. There we go. That's in. Just a couple things. There's so much room up here on the top of the case. This is actually comical for guys that build cases a lot. Your AIO cooler could practically be a push-pull configuration if you wanted to. There's tons of room. In some of the builds I've done recently, you're almost overhanging the RAM and the the CPU or the edge of the CPU cooler. This thing's got literally so much room. That's completely in. You can see I've got inches and inches above and below. And this is, again, an MATX motherboard. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to put the motherboard down. I'll show you a tip that I like to do when mounting the motherboard. It's another sign of good case quality. I like to put one screw in over here on the edge or even in the middle, not tightened all the way. Gives me some room to wiggle and get the motherboard, because a lot of times on cheap cases they don't machine the holes right. And this thing's perfect. It's dialed in. That was another thing that was really impressive to me, that this case, when they're manufacturing it, these things are down to, you know, hundreds of millimeters of accuracy on the CNCs, and they nailed those mill spots. So again, I moved for MATX, I moved one of the standoffs up. That's the one I moved right there. So, and I'm going ahead and adding our screws. They do have additional standoffs in the kit, and I don't know, if that's for just a ginormous motherboard. I have not seen that many, but it's good. You kind of get a parts collection going as you're a PC builder. Always good, because you're going to lose one of these one day or drop them like I did in the pre-build here. Okay, and so now I'm just going to add this one right here. There's one in the upper corner here. It's a lot easier to get this screw in when you don't have all your cables connected. So this one goes right next to the CPU power connectors, the additional CPU power for the motherboard. I'm just going to do a quick spot check. Looks like I got them all where I wanted. Awesome. Okay, so standard 20+4 right here, 24 pin. Makes the corner. And yeah, good cable management on this case. Lots of room, like I said, to hide your cables. I don't try to overflex things. And there we go. That's aligned. Okay, and that one is in. This again is for our VGA. We're going to save that. The next hard one is over here. And this is the CPU ones. A trick here, when you got the 2 4s, do them one at a time. Don't try to force it. You can, if there's enough room, get the one on. So you see I have that one extra one sitting. Just make sure you put them both on there. Some other motherboards will have dual 8s even. So, okay. That's generally got what I need. So I've got most of my stuff through here. We've got to hook up some I/O. That's coming up next. To do that, I'm going to flip the thing vertical so you can see it vertically here. And then we're going to work front to back. So again, now we've got the motherboard through. And that back plate's on there. Got my wiring, somewhat routed. It's not too bad looking. Again, I could use the zip ties over here. I could run things real pretty down. Now, I don't have any chassis connectors on the top here on my motherboard. For some reason, they put them all down near the bottom. But what was interesting about this is long enough to fit right down there to my first chassis connector. And a trick I told you about, let me switch back over in the beginning, is if you use the Molex connectors together, now you got to be careful here, obviously, depending on your motherboard and the amperage requirements. You can run them, I got 4, I could run them to each one. But you could actually just tease this one in here, connect one of them, connect the rest of the Molexes here, and they'll all have power because it's just basically a bridge. Got a few other cables that I know go down here. This one is the USB 2 down in this range. The USB 3, that's this guy, standard USB 3 connector. It goes up a little bit higher. It's on my motherboard. I'm going to send it through this area next. My reset switch is taken care of, but my power switch is still here. So I'm going to again send this one over here. And I can come back through and I can reroute these things when I have time. My big excitement here is this thing going to post for you guys? I'm kind of on the fence. So we're going to slide that through over here. That's another one. And then the power LED. So we got a power switch, power LED. We're building a live computer here. Okay. Again, great little setup on this machine. Again, wiring not great yet, but we can make it great. We just have to go back through. I'm going to swing this thing around again. We'll stay on the B cam. Okay. And there's where all the motherboard headers go. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. So all of the different I/O shield headers. This one is HD audio, which on mine is way over here. Now I'm not going to do this. I just told you I was doing the reset switch, but my addressable RGB and my regular RGB here. So this one is my addressable and this one is my regular. So if you buy those cheap kits off of eBay, you can get the $16 RGB kits. So that's them. This is a USB right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the USB in. That's USB 2. USB 3, like I said, was right up here. I got really close. I'm gonna run it up one just to make it look even cleaner. I'm gonna kind of hide it underneath, and I'll just give you guys a view here. So I'm hiding it underneath the ATX cable, and I'm gonna put it's a keyed one directional USB 3 cable, and that's in. Okay. Now, this is where we talked about that Molex. So my other chassis header is right here. So it's a 4-pin, and I'm not sure that this thing's going to focus all the way down there for you, but that's that one right here that I'm telling you about. It's a 4-pin. Now this is only a 3-pin header, but it fits right on the edge of the 4-pin, and that will let me control the power to my stuff. And you can tuck the Molexes back in, so you don't see these little adapters. The other option is I could go in and take those apart, and I could find the rest of the chassis headers around here, and I could plug those all in. Now, power switch, HDD, LED, and reset switch are all here. Try to do them in somewhat of an order. Okay, got those. Let me go to the back here and check. Here's power switch. There we go. Found the other two, they just slipped back when we turned it around. Okay. So these are those other pins. Now, they will have a pin that is usually marked plus. And this is really tiny. I know it's hard to see there, but let's see if it'll give us a focus. No, it's not helping us. So one side of the power LED and HD LEDs is plus, and on the motherboard it's marked that way as well. The power LED is split. I know that it goes right here. And right here. Now, cool thing about this Pro 4 motherboard, I'll be honest, when I was playing around with it and I was doing my review, I forgot to put things in, VGA card and others, and it actually has the ability, it has little diagnostic LEDs, and they're DRAM and CPU and memory and all that, and it'll show you the diagnostic LED telling you what's bad. So we can kind of back out here. So I've got my connectors connected. I don't have a graphics card in here. In the interest of stability, I think I'm going to put the machine down when we do the graphics card. I do want to show you, again, more builder-friendly features on this thing. What always happens is you're going to buy a graphics card. It's going to be a 2 or a 3 slot graphics card. And then your buddy's going to give you a better deal on his, or you're going to do a bunch of knockouts because you thought SLI was going to be cool, Crossfire, so you put another graphics card in, and then you got a better deal. They actually include slot covers. So cheaper cases don't include slot covers, and they definitely don't include color matched ones. So these are black color matched slot covers. So we can take those out. I actually took the wrong one here. I know that I'm only going to need 2 with this RX 580. So I'm going to tighten this guy back down. It also has, very similar to the Dell tool-free designs, it's got this, slot cover that you can just pull down and it will hold. Okay, I'm going to check the chat here, and I'm going to check one more time on the chat on this side on RogueCast. Sorry guys if I have been slightly occupied. I will get over here to the chat on RogueCast and see if I can catch up on that. And looking at the chat. Oh, okay, yes, I like this. Oh, lots of chat here, guys. I'm going to continue to look through here. Hey, thanks, Jerry. I love this camera also myself. I'll come back out to the A cam here. Yeah, graphics cards are very hard to get, Guadalupe, man. I believe you. And, for those interested, I am using a Stream Deck to switch between the cameras and OBS and all that. We can chat on Twitter if you want. NVMe drives, isn't that awesome? Yeah, the NVMe drives, man, this case is going to look so nice when it's all done. And then extensions, yeah, absolutely. Yep, exactly. Notice coarse thread have a hex head. Yeah, there's some round ones that are coarse thread on here as well. And yeah, Jerry, they're not making any money on this deal. I know that for sure. $50 is an insane deal on this case. So, okay, Nick, I called you out here. I said I was going to do it. I was going to lay it down, but I'm going to just put the graphics card in full. Let's see if I can do this without injuring myself or the graphics card. So, top PCI Express slot, graphics card goes in. I have that cover open. I'm going to push this down. Now, it latches in, and there is a retainer that's supposed to be holding it. But this is the one thing I like about this case. Again, builder-friendly feature. That folds down. That's going to keep it from popping out, you know, vertically. And I can put, or I should say horizontally. I can stand up now. I can work my way over here, and I can tighten this cover down. So I know that that's in. I can also come over here, and I can put the screws in for my graphics card. So, don't do as I do, do as I say. Hopefully lay your PC down, work it real easily. Don't put any stress on your graphics card, but Nick challenged me there, so I thought I would follow up with him, show him how it's done. So, getting on that screw, last one, I know it fits. Perfect. Okay, the screws are all in. Now, before you forget, it's really easy to forget to put the PCIe power on here. When I was a young gamer, I got a really expensive graphics card. I forgot to do that. I fired it up and it blew the graphics card because there was not enough slot power coming through. So, putting that in real quick. This one has an 8 and a 3, so I'm putting both of those in. Or sorry, an 8 and a 6. Now, the case is a large case. So you got lots of room for a cooler, but I found that this right here, this extra wire, I don't want that to go in my fans. This will rub against the outside if you don't have your cable management done. I think that's good. Hopefully you guys are going to keep me honest. That should post. And like I said, it's going to have the ability through the front panel I/O that I can actually hit a button and change the graphics card. I've connected my chassis headers down here for my fans, so all my fans are wired in. I think we're good. I'm going to check real quick. Yeah, and we will go through the cycle of the fans here. I'm just checking one chat channel. I'm going to come back and check the other real quick here. Absolutely. Hey, welcome Dan PC Tech Hustle. Good to see you on there. He's one of my Optiplex build partners here. We both got famous building Optiplexes on YouTube. Okay, so here is the power cable, and you're about to see me diagnose a machine if I do this wrong. So I'm going to plug in my USBs, and I've got my HDMI for my monitor. I'm going to tell you about this monitor once everything boots up, because this thing is epic. If you don't have one already of this model, it's one of my favorites this year. My friends know I don't shut up about it right now. So, okay. Awesome. So that is the machine. If I've done everything right, I'm just going to peek at the power switch back there. If I've done everything right, it should post when I hit this button. If not, it's going to be a first. You ready? Oh, nothing. Nothing. Okay, so now we get to go through the diagnostic steps. Okay, power connector is on there. Power is plugged in over here. Let's go take a look at those I/O cables. You know what? My power switch cable pulled off. I don't know. That might have been... There we go. Yeah, my power switch cable pulled off. That might have been something of the demo people, demo gods were coming after me. Let's try it again. Power switch plus minus. That's always an interesting one. Let's see how we do this. If I was going to go through here, now I'm used to having it tell me, there it was. Boom! Got it. So there's a 4-pin and there's a 5-pin right underneath it on that motherboard. I was off by a hole. There you go. So there is the RGB. Let's take a look. I said, will it post? Here's my screen. This is the gigabyte. We got to post. Okay, so it wasn't the first time. That's the rule of the demo. Yeah, thank you there, Chrysler. That is the rule of the demo. That's what ends up happening. But as you can see here, oh, I've even got sound. I've got everything. So I'm running on the rainbow pattern right here, and my RAM is on a rainbow pattern as well. I can hit the button and change it. I'm going to bring you guys in with the B camera here. Okay, so this is a cool white blue, so it's going through all the different colors and cycling. What you're going to notice too, and I noticed about this, is the fan. Oh, that back rear fan's not spinning. Maybe I did flex a couple things I have to look at. The front ones are definitely spinning. You can set the fan RPM. So that was the cool thing about this, is you can actually, these are running not at full bore. You know, if I feel this, it's actually pretty light. So we're going to get that up, and I'm going to bring up their tuning software real quick. This is A tuning for the ASRock. So I'm going to bring up the ASRock tuning software here, and I'm going to go into the Fantastic Tuning, and you can go through the different fans that you have, and depending on which port you plug them in, I can actually increase the fan speed. So I just did that. Now you didn't hear it, but that actually just sped those fans up. And I wanted to show you kind of a cool trick here. So again, when you have this much airflow, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. Like, I just put a piece of paper up there and it's going to sit there and hold it. If I take these fans and I drop them to nothing, and I can do this based on CPU temperature or motherboard temperature, these front fans come all the way to a stop, and this page just falls off. So again, you can set, like I was saying earlier, how loud you want this thing to be. If you're like me, you're recording something, you don't want this thing really loud, you need a nice quiet case, quiet PC, you can do that. Or if you're a gaming and you say, you know what, when I get to a certain amount of CPU, I need this fan to kick on, I'll hit that button and bam. So now it can be CPU bound and it can increase. So that's a really cool, awesome thing that you can do when you don't use the Molex connectors. Molex connectors are going to make it go full speed. And actually, just, you know, knowing the way I pulled this around, I bet you that last chassis fan back there is what was not getting connected. So let me just take a look real quick. I just hit the power button, so we're going to shut down. Yeah, that's what happened on that rear fan. That's why it wasn't spinning. So I'm not going to deal with that one right now. I'll get that one spinning later. You know, I just wanted to, again, show you guys this case. You can do the RGB without actually having the Molex connected or the chassis header plugged in. And so that rear fan will spin when you do that. I just want to go through a couple more of the RGBs, and then I'm going to come back and do some of your questions. So if you're not a big RGB fan, this is another cool thing. You can go to solid color. So these are, again, all adjustable through this. And if you do plug it into your motherboard, you can do things like you can dim. They do like PWM controls where you can, you know, change things. Like this is going to dim up and down. But when you get into your Aura Sync or your other software, you know, it can do that. So I'm going to check the chats over here. And we're going to see, I'll keep this camera out of the way. And then we're going to go over here and you guys can see the machine. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so any other questions you guys have in the chat here? Let's see. Yeah, 4A RGB fans is an amazing price, even without the case. And, you know, I would have to say that's another really thing that impressed me about this. I can open up HW Info 64 if you guys don't know about that one. It's a really cool app to show every register, every sensor, everything that's going on in your machine. And I can look at the fan speed. So if that fan was not plugged in or stopped working for whatever reason, it's not the fan. It's just I have it down here, not connected. I can hook that up. If you have a situation like that, you can actually set an alert or an alarm to notify you if a fan RPM drops, which is really cool. So that's another advantage going through the motherboard on it. But HW Info 64 is really good on that. Then we go through noise level. Yep, absolutely. I'm gonna just check the other chat channels here. Looking great. Okay, well, I don't like having something not work 100%, so I'm going to take a quick look over here. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to just take a quick look at that header for the, there it is. Now, technically, I'm going to get yelled at and say to turn this off before I do this, but I just wanted to prove to you guys, no smoke and mirrors, it's running right there. So that is the fan working. Case works 100%. It's been a really good case. And I'm going to throw the side on it real quick for you because I think that, you know, like I mentioned, it's really impressive, the tempered glass that it comes with here. So I'm going to go back out here to the full camera. I'm going to grab the tempered glass. I'm not going to put the back on it again. Like I said, interest of time, I'm going to go do that later. But check this tempered glass out. So you can see almost right through it with no real darkness. It keeps the airflow going where you want it. Super quiet. I can see that. Give you guys this view. I can see that Sapphire graphics card in there. That's awesome. It looks so cool. Yeah, and I can go through the software. That Crucial Ballistics, if you want to link that to the motherboard and have it match the motherboard, and you want to link that to the case, all your RGB can be linked and running at the same style. So really cool. And so again, I wish you could hear it, because even when you turn these things up, I think it's about 1250 RPM they run. It's not a loud case at all. It's very, very well mannered case. Really good looking, as you can see here. Let's talk, I skipped over completely the upper IO shield here. I want to tell you about that real quick. There is some coolness to it, actually. So I have, for gamers, you're going to have your headphone inputs. If you're gaming with USB, you can got your USB. You have a USB 3 up here. This is really cool if you're plugging in something, schoolwork, homework, whatever it is. Something I didn't notice, I was like, where is the hard drive activity light? And I don't know if it's going to come through on this. Again, just the color and contrast. I'm going to log in and see if it shows up here. It's actually inside the power. See that little red blink? That's your hard drive activity light. And again, with an NVMe, you're going to get very little access on the hard drive. But I always thought that was really funny about, you know, where they managed to put that light. It's really cool. It's a really compact look. I'm going to go check the questions here. Yes, let's do the discount code. Let's do a kind of a wrap up here of what I built. I'm going to go through the build guide one more time here real quick. AMD 3600X, 12 cores, it's going to be awesome. It's going to play lots of games really well. I bet you this thing will even play Warfare and some other more intense stuff. You could actually do, you can do Cyberpunk on this for sure. The RX 580, you're going to have to do some tricks. One of my tricks, go to 900p resolution. It looks, when you're doing high frame rate, it looks really good. I've gotten over 50 frames a second on the 580 at 900p. You're going to have to be on lower medium settings. Again, EVGA, modular power supply, awesome. Take a look at that over, we've got it on RogueCast. We've got a great price on a lot of these. A lot of times in these, we're going to be beating, you know, Newegg on this. We're going to be beating Amazon, and then you're going to get RogueCasters. My review of the 550M is up right now. You can go check that out. It's a great motherboard. Like I said, it's future-proofed. It's got PCIe Gen 4 if you want that, but you're not paying $300 like you do for an for an X570, which we also carry if you're interested in that kind of stuff. A website, it's RogueCast.com. I'm a RogueCaster. I will be there. You can ask questions on there. There's some chat features and some other cool stuff. You've got my bio info on there as well. I'm going to go over and check for some other questions. And it looks like we don't have any other questions on the stream right now. I'm going to go back over here. Let's get that promo code up again real quick. So again, people that are watching this live stream, or if you want to send this to a friend, if you got a friend that you know is looking for a case, you can always use this code. RogueCast Raijintek, RAIJINTEK. That's going to get you $20 off. It's got free shipping already, but it's going to drop that to $51. It's a ridiculous deal for this case. It's works really well. I love it. If you've got any Q&A, You can also get me on these contact methods. As I told you, you can hit me up on Twitter. You can catch me on YouTube, Facebook. I'm one of those weird creators that answers all my YouTube comments. It's a lot of work right now, but I do answer those YouTube comments. I do want to thank the folks over at RogueCast. You know, they're starting a new thing. It's a completely different way to shop. It's awesome to be part of this startup. And I want to thank you guys for watching. And remember, check out more real-world experience reviews on other great products right here on RogueCast.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.